It begins with a whisper across the sky, one faint dot sliding through a dark ocean of stars, slower than a meteor, yet moving with purpose. Astronomers first notice it not through brilliance, but through absence. It is darker than expected, a silent brushstroke across the night that refuses to match any chart or catalog. Under the soft veil of starlight, telescopes track it as it drifts into the field of view, its trajectory steep, plunging toward the sun. In the cradle of silence, machines hum, mirrors tilt, and across observatories on every continent, a pattern begins to emerge. Something unfamiliar is coming, and it's coming fast. At first, it seems to be another comet, maybe one of the hundreds we've logged this year. Small, icy travelers wandering through the solar system. But then the motion doesn't fit. Its orbit isn't elliptical like most comets that return again and again. It's hyperbolic, an open curve that never closes, a sign that it came from far beyond the sun's reach. The numbers tell a quiet story of speed, faster than 3I/Atlas, faster even than Oumuamua. Its course plunges toward the sun on a path that no known comet or asteroid has ever taken. Imagine standing under that same sky tonight, looking up at what seems like nothing, a space between stars where silence gathers. Somewhere in that space, a shadow races inward. You wouldn't see it with the naked eye, not yet, but telescopes can feel its approach like a vibration through light. Its faint signature flickers across CCD sensors, a pattern in the data so unusual that scientists begin to whisper in messages and late-night calls. What if this isn't just a fragment of rock and ice? What if it's something older, stranger, something sent, not thrown? If you're listening as you drift toward sleep, that's exactly why these stories exist. Subscribe, and tell me where you are and what time it is. I read them: New York at midnight, London before dawn, Sydney in sunlight, like stars scattered across Earth, each of you watching the same sky, sharing the same wonder. The narrator's voice lowers, as if leaning closer. An interstellar object, it explains gently, is a visitor from another star. A relic of some distant system, a shard of time and gravity that escaped its home millions of years ago. When such an object enters our solar system, it moves differently, its velocity too great to be bound by the sun's pull. It's not a satellite in orbit but a traveler passing through, a messenger on a one-way journey. Astronomers mark its steep descent, calculating its perihelion, the closest point to the sun. As they model its path, something unsettling appears. The object isn't following gravity alone. Its acceleration curves slightly, just enough to hint at some unknown force, perhaps outgassing jets from melting ice, or perhaps something else entirely. The data isn't loud. It's quiet, almost shy, yet persistent. Each measurement tightens the story's thread. Inside dark observatories, computers hum like low ocean tides. Researchers sip cold coffee, leaning toward monitors that glow pale blue. Lines of orbit projections form a luminous haze on the screen, a dozen possible paths, all converging near the sun, each one whispering of risk, of awe. Beyond their walls, the night is utterly still. The only sound is the wind sliding over domes and the soft whir of gears adjusting mirrors to follow a ghost. For centuries, humanity has watched comets approach the sun. Some flare into tails of silver fire, others disintegrate, scattering dust that later rains on Earth as meteor showers. But this one feels different. It carries no visible coma, no bright tail, only a cold shimmer that seems to swallow more light than it gives. Its darkness makes it hard to read, as if the universe itself is keeping its secrets wrapped in shadow. To describe its path is to describe a plunge into brilliance, a black speck diving toward the heart of the solar glare, through the region where ordinary telescopes go blind. Gravity bends its route into a smooth curve, like a line drawn by a trembling hand. The sun, vast and ancient, reaches out with invisible fingers. Solar wind, radiation, magnetic fields, each one trying to unravel what this object is made of. Scientists begin comparing its orbit to that of 3I/Atlas, a previous interstellar comet that broke apart before revealing its core. But this one seems sturdier, compact, almost resistant to sunlight. A few researchers speculate it might be metallic, perhaps a remnant of a shattered planet from another star. Others dismiss that idea, preferring the comfort of ice and dust. In truth, no one knows. The data is too thin, the window too short before it disappears behind the sun's glare. The narration softens, as if exhaling. Imagine, it says, how far this traveler has come. From another star, through endless night, crossing interstellar dust clouds and cold nebulae, now diving toward our warmth. You can almost feel the heat increase as it nears perihelion, the faint whisper of solar wind brushing against its surface, the slow rise of vapor and ionized particles streaming off like threads of smoke. The story drifts between fact and reverie. It reminds us that space is not empty, it is filled with memory. Every particle, every photon carries a trace of where it has been. When we look at this object, we are not just observing motion. We are witnessing the handwriting of another system's history, written in gravity and light. Somewhere, an astronomer writes in her log, object brightness decreasing, trajectory confirmed, non-periodic. Another adjusts the telescope, following that faint point as it slips lower toward the horizon, soon to vanish into daylight. For a few quiet hours, the world below sleeps unaware, while above, an ancient traveler crosses the invisible border between the known and the unknown. The narrator's tone lowers to a whisper. We name it for the record books, but in truth, it already had a name before we found it, a name written by time, by the silence between stars. You imagine that darkness folding around it, the soft glow of starlight spilling over its rough surface, the way gravity itself hums in anticipation. And then, the final image lingers, a single point of light, sliding closer to the sun, not bright, not loud, but deliberate. A shadow approaching a furnace, carrying with it the unanswered question of why it came, and what it truly is. The silence deepens, yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. Under the quiet shimmer of midnight, the story drifts backward, away from the new, unsettling object hurtling toward the sun and into the long corridor of memory that belongs to the sky. Across this vast timeline, ancient visitors glide past like faint brush strokes, comets, asteroids, and meteor fragments, each carrying whispers of where they came from. For millennia, they have crossed our world's path, lighting up nights, frightening kings, inspiring sailors, and seeding the first questions about what else exists beyond the soft veil of blue that surrounds Earth. These visitors are ghosts, bright for a moment, then gone, leaving behind nothing but streaks in old drawings and echoes in the names we gave them. Oumuamua came first in modern memory, a pale needle racing through our system in 2017. Telescopes caught it just as it slipped away, its motion unlike anything local. It wasn't orbiting our sun the way planets do, it was passing through, indifferent, a traveler from elsewhere. Its path was shallow and swift, cutting across the plane of our orbits like a single, deliberate stroke. Scientists measured its brightness and realized something strange. It reflected sunlight in unpredictable ways, tumbling, twisting, almost as if it were trying to hide its true shape. A shard, a fragment, perhaps an ancient relic of another system's birth. For a moment, humanity watched something truly interstellar move through our own celestial home. 2 years later came 2I/Borisov, a very different guest. While Oumuamua had no visible tail, Borisov announced itself with a wide, glowing coma and a faint, pale blue tail that curved softly under solar wind. It was the first interstellar comet ever confirmed, made of ice, dust, and frozen gases formed around another star. Spectrographs revealed traces of water, carbon monoxide, and cyanide, shimmering through the dark like a whisper from a distant nursery of worlds. Unlike the silent, sharp mystery of Oumuamua, Borisov felt alive, ordinary in form but extraordinary in origin, the same ingredients that once fell upon Earth's surface, sparking the chemistry of life. And then came 3I/Atlas, larger, brighter, and heartbreakingly fragile. At first, it promised a spectacular show, a comet so luminous that it might outshine the planets. But as it drew nearer to the sun, its core fractured, splitting into fading shards of ice and dust. The bright promise dissolved into a silent ruin. Even in its breaking, 3I/Atlas told us something essential. Interstellar travelers are not eternal. They are stories written in fragile matter, erased by sunlight and heat, leaving behind nothing but lessons in their wake. As the narrator's voice slows, you imagine these three travelers floating side by side through the corridors of your mind. The needle, the flare, and the ghost. Oumuamua, Borisov, Atlas, each different in chemistry and behavior, yet connected by the same haunting quality. They do not belong here. They enter our skies like dreams that fade upon waking. Humanity's instruments, from Hubble to ground-based arrays, caught only moments of their passage. The data, though rich, never quite answered the same quiet question: why now? The chapter's calm flow begins to thread science and sleep together. A comet, the narrator explains, is a frozen memory, a time capsule from the earliest days of star formation. When sunlight warms its surface, ancient ices sublimate, creating a tail that glows like soft breath in the dark. An asteroid, by contrast, is silence made stone, dry, inert, the skeletal remains of worlds that almost formed but didn't. And when fragments from either fall through our atmosphere, they ignite, brief meteors painting trails that vanish before the eye can fully register them. Each type of visitor tells a different story, yet all speak in the same language of light and motion. You are invited to picture it: a comet crossing the black ocean of space, a thin mist trailing behind, the sun turning that mist into silver vapor. Farther away, in the cradle of silence between planets, an asteroid glides unseen, hidden until it catches a glint of starlight. Nearer still, a meteor burns, a heartbeat of fire that ends in ash before it touches the ground. These moments are the punctuation marks of cosmic time, each a reminder that the night sky is not fixed but alive with motion. Soft ambient tones hum beneath the narration, perhaps the sound of wind passing through open observatory domes, or the low electrical whisper of a telescope adjusting its focus. In that soundscape, the listener drifts between awe and calm curiosity. The voice explains that all these objects, known, catalogued, and named, follow predictable paths defined by gravity's quiet mathematics. Yet this new object, the one currently racing toward the sun, does not fit easily into those patterns. Its speed, its entry angle, its composition, each appears slightly wrong, like a note that doesn't belong in the melody. The calmness of the chapter does not waver, but a subtle unease rises beneath it. The narrator speaks of forbidden patterns, an old astronomer's phrase for trajectories that don't match known gravitational solutions. Sometimes they are errors in data, sometimes they are new discoveries. Either way, they remind us how little we truly see of the space that surrounds us. Even with thousands of telescopes watching, much of the sky remains an open question. Still, humanity continues to look up. From desert observatories in Chile to silent peaks in Hawaii, from orbiting eyes like the James Webb Space Telescope to small backyard lenses aimed at the dark, we gather light and turn it into knowledge. Each comet, asteroid, and meteor becomes a footnote in our collective dream of understanding the heavens. But beneath that curiosity lies something older, a feeling that each visitor might be a messenger, carrying a story from beyond the familiar map of stars. The voice softens even more toward the close. It describes the night as a living museum, filled with exhibits that come and go. Each visitor's orbit is a brief appearance in that gallery, a reminder that the cosmos is not empty but full of motion, memory, and mystery. Oumuamua's shape, Borisov's vapor, Atlas's collapse, all become gentle metaphors for impermanence. They arrive, they shine, they fade. You can almost see the narrator smile in the darkness as the final words settle into stillness. Against this history, the new object, the one we first glimpsed in the previous chapter, stands apart. Its trajectory doesn't echo any of these known travelers. It bends too sharply, shines too dimly, hides too much. It feels less like a messenger and more like a question carved into the fabric of motion itself. And as the chapter ends, the last image lingers, a slow drift through the gallery of vanished comets, each leaving a faint trail of memory behind. The air feels hushed, as if the universe is holding its breath. Somewhere out there, beyond the known paths, another traveler is on approach. Its message has not yet been read, but its shadow is already moving across the stars. Beneath the endless brightness of the sun, there lies a paradox, a fortress of light so powerful that it blinds even the eyes built to study it. The story begins in that brilliance, where the warmth we depend on becomes the veil that hides entire worlds. When astronomers speak of blind spots, they do not mean carelessness. They mean the simple fact that the sun, glowing in perpetual fire, creates vast regions of invisibility. Anything approaching from that direction, any small asteroid, icy comet, or fragment of rock, can slip through this glare unseen until it is almost upon us. The narrator's voice moves softly through this landscape of light. You can imagine standing on a high desert plateau, where telescopes sit under a pale dawn, their domes still closed against the growing heat. As the sky brightens, instruments shut down, cameras turn away. The sun's radiance floods every pixel, washing out faint stars, swallowing the smallest travelers that cross its path. A blind spot, the astronomers call it, a region where discovery must wait until twilight returns. In space, solar observatories try to compensate. The SOHO and STEREO missions, machines floating millions of miles away, peer constantly toward the sun, watching the halo of light for sudden flares or moving shadows. Yet even these eyes, designed for brightness, struggle to notice faint intruders. A comet's tail might shimmer for a moment before vaporizing. A rock might flash briefly as it disintegrates. Many never appear at all, known only after the fact, when trails of dust and charged particles whisper that something passed unseen. We drift closer into the mechanics of it. Earth's orbit, a smooth curve around the Sun, creates an endless dance of geometry. Angles where the Sun and Earth align so precisely that any object traveling inward from that direction becomes hidden behind a wall of glare. Astronomers call these places solar exclusion zones. Even the most powerful telescopes on Earth, scanning for mountain peaks or frozen deserts, must look away during certain months of the year. The silence in their absence is not neglect but necessity. Inside a control room, the soundscape is gentle but alive. A low hum from cooling fans. The faint rhythmic click of guiding motors adjusting telescope mirrors before dawn. The quiet sigh of someone reviewing data streams in the half-dark. Numbers scroll endlessly. Position, brightness, velocity, tiny fingerprints of the cosmos. Most of it looks ordinary, the background of stars repeating as the Earth turns. But every so often, an anomaly appears, a dot that doesn't belong. Sometimes it's a cosmic ray striking a sensor. Sometimes it's a true traveler, something drifting in from the void. The narrator lingers on the irony. The brighter the light, the deeper the shadows it casts. The sun illuminates everything around us, yet it also blinds us to what approaches through its glare. It is a curtain of brilliance drawn across half the sky. The objects that come this way, the sungrazers, are discovered only when they emerge from behind the curtain, already changed by heat and gravity, some disintegrating entirely, others flung back into the dark. Imagine it visually, the sun as a vast golden storm, solar wind flowing like invisible rivers. Within that storm, small bodies drift silently, hidden until they cross the boundary where light meets darkness. A comet may glow for a heartbeat, its icy body shedding vapor that creates a brief, luminous veil. Then it vanishes, burned away or lost to the light. Instruments pick up faint fluctuations, a flicker in a data stream, a suggestion that something real just slipped past unseen. There is comfort and unease in this balance. Comfort, because it reminds us that the universe still has secrets. Unease, because those secrets sometimes move faster than we can see. The object now racing toward the sun could be among them, one of those hidden travelers, caught too late in the moment between invisibility and revelation. Its orbit cuts through the exclusion zone, beyond the direct reach of ground-based observatories, its faint trail erased by the brilliance of our own star. From time to time, astronomers attempt to bridge the blindness. They use space telescopes positioned far from Earth's line of sight, or they look for reflected light during the brief hours of twilight. They build software that searches for patterns invisible to the human eye, mathematical whispers hidden in the noise. Yet still, much of space remains a cradle of silence, the domain of the unseen. You can almost feel the stillness between data transmissions, the pause before a system flags a new detection. Somewhere in that quiet, the sinister quality of the unknown begins to take shape, not in fear, but in humility. The realization that even here, surrounded by machines, models, and predictions, the universe still holds corners we cannot illuminate. The narrator slows the tempo, voice low and rhythmic, as if guiding the listener into a softer darkness. The blind spots around the sun are not mistakes. They are reminders that knowledge has edges. Every discovery begins as something hidden, waiting patiently in the glare, invisible until it decides to reveal itself. And as the hum of the observatory fades, as the digital stars on the monitor dim one by one, the sense of mystery deepens. Somewhere within those bright corridors of solar light, something could be moving even now, quiet, deliberate, unseen. The glow fades, leaving a gentle shimmer across the imagination. The silence deepens, yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. The room is dim, lit only by monitors that cast a quiet, bluish glow across rows of papers and empty coffee cups. It's well past midnight at the observatory, the hour when silence feels alive, and every flicker of data means something. On the screens, a faint curve of light moves across a black background, a streak, small and almost unremarkable. Yet to those watching, it's enough to stop a heartbeat. The object once believed to be a routine entry in the star catalog has begun to act differently. Its orbit, once smooth, now bends too sharply. Its velocity climbs faster than prediction models can explain. Somewhere between the columns of numbers and the grainy image on screen, a pattern is breaking apart. Astronomers trace the coordinates carefully. Each line of data is another moment captured in time, a whisper of starlight recorded through layers of atmosphere, turned into numbers by cold silicon sensors. They feed the coordinates into trajectory software, watching curves ripple outward like quiet waves. Most comets follow gentle ellipses, graceful returns sculpted by the sun's pull. But this one, its line cuts deep, like a blade across the map. Its path dives toward the sun with an angle rarely seen, threading through the orbits of Mercury and Venus before curving violently back into the void. The narrator's tone remains calm, soft, almost sleepy, but threaded with awe. The explanation unfolds like a lullaby of logic. Every object in space moves by the balance of gravity and momentum, yet this traveler seems to lean into that balance, slipping through equations that normally hold true. The numbers whisper something unusual, a trajectory too steep, a velocity too high. A quiet thought arises. Either it has been pushed by something we cannot see, or it carries its own secret source of motion. A technician adjusts the display, bringing up its light curve, the way brightness rises and falls over time. Most comets brighten smoothly as they shed dust and gas near the sun. This one flickers instead, dimming and brightening unpredictably, as though turning a dark, irregular face toward the telescopes. The spectrograph reads faint traces of carbon, oxygen, and metallic dust, a fragile cocktail of the familiar and the strange. A thin, uneven halo surrounds the core, like mist clinging to cold stone. Unlike the grand, icy plumes of comets, this is subdued, more secretive, more restrained, as if it wants to remain unseen. In the control room, the air hums with soft machine noise, servers cooling, data recording, printers clicking faintly in the corner. The scientists murmur in half-sentences. Some call it a fragment of a shattered asteroid, others wonder if it's a remnant from interstellar space. One voice suggests the possibility of non-gravitational acceleration, the same subtle push once seen in Oumuamua, the visitor that slipped through our solar system years ago and left more questions than answers. But this one moves differently, heavier, its arc more deliberate. Outside, the night sky hangs in silence. Somewhere above those clouds, the object continues its course, indifferent to the curiosity it awakens below. It spins slowly, reflecting light unevenly, a dark traveler cloaked in fragments of gas. If it were an ordinary comet, its surface would glitter faintly with ice. Instead, this body seems to absorb starlight, swallowing brightness and giving back only a dull shimmer. The darkness itself becomes part of its mystery, a kind of cosmic camouflage. The narrator's voice lowers, soothing and cinematic. Every observation is a moment of translation, it says. Light becomes data, data becomes thought, and thought becomes story. In this story, the numbers tell of something that does not behave as expected, an orbit bending deeper, a light curve that refuses rhythm, a surface too dark for comfort. Still, there is no alarm, only curiosity. In science, the strange is an invitation. The more irregular the pattern, the louder it calls to be understood. Days pass. Observatories across continents join in, each adding a thread of observation. Chile, Hawaii, Spain, Japan. When the coordinates are combined, they reveal consistency. The anomaly is real, not an illusion of angle or instrument. Its perihelion, the point of closest approach to the sun, will arrive sooner than expected. The orbit tightens like a spiral, a drawn breath before release. The spectrograph shows the gas halo growing, faintly asymmetric, suggesting uneven heating across the surface. Something inside is shifting. In quiet reflection, the narrator explains how this is the beauty and burden of astronomy. The universe rarely shouts its secrets. It murmurs them in data points and decimals, waiting for patient minds to notice. A single deviation can mean discovery, or nothing at all. But when a pattern breaks this cleanly, the whisper feels deliberate. And so, under a soft glow of monitor light, the anomaly earns its name. It is no longer catalogued simply as a number, but as a candidate interstellar object. Astronomers argue over classifications: comet, asteroid, fragment, or something else entirely. But names don't matter to the traveler. It continues its path unbothered, a silent messenger moving through the inner system, trailing a thread of gas and dust like a signature written in space. The camera of the mind pans slowly outward, from the observatory to the spinning Earth, to the widening orbit of the anomaly cutting across the solar plane. The voice softens, describing the scene as though tucking the listener into thought. It moves through the cradle of silence, a single fragment wrapped in the memory of another world. For a moment, you can almost picture it, a dark shard of ancient matter gliding beneath the golden rays of the sun, carrying within it the chemistry of forgotten stars. Its speed is both ordinary and impossible, its curve both predictable and wild. Every orbit tells a story, but this one feels like a question, not of threat, but of meaning. Perhaps it is just a rock, driven by old collisions and frozen gases. Or perhaps, as the narrator's final words suggest, it is a messenger, a quiet signal written in motion, reminding us how much of the universe still moves unseen. The glow on the monitors fades, leaving behind the steady hum of the machines and the echo of numbers still recording in the dark. The object races on, its luminous haze thickening, its curve tightening as if leaning closer to speak. And in the deep quiet between signals, one could almost sense that another secret was about to reveal itself. In the endless quiet between stars, there drifts a fragment, dark, unhurried, ancient beyond measure. Its orbit, if it can be called that, is not bound to any sun or planet. It moves through the cosmic deep like a memory unclaimed, untouched by warmth for millions of years. The telescopes that now follow it see only a thin signature, light so faint it nearly dissolves into the background haze. Yet the data whisper one truth: this object does not belong here. It came from elsewhere, from a place where gravity once shaped it, then let it go. Astronomers call such wanderers interstellar visitors. To the human ear, the phrase carries wonder and unease in equal parts. We have seen two before, one I/Oumuamua and two I/Borisov, both emissaries from the space between suns. Oumuamua, thin and tumbling, gave no clear tail and reflected sunlight like polished stone. Borisov, by contrast, carried a familiar cometary glow, a plume of vapor trailing behind. But this new arrival, darker than both, refuses easy comparison. Its shape is unresolved, its light curve irregular, and its surface colder than expected even under the kiss of solar rays. Imagine floating in that frozen black, where time feels stretched and sound cannot travel. A faint hum of charged particles, the solar wind's distant murmur, is the only motion. For eons, this object wandered the corridors between galaxies, gathering a thin coat of interstellar dust, grains from exploded stars, carbon-rich soot from ancient nebulae. Each layer is a page in a history book older than Earth itself. When a nearby supernova's shock wave nudged it free, it began this long migration, an unhurried arc that would eventually intersect our small, luminous world. In the control rooms of observatories, the glow of monitors replaces starlight. Teams trace the object's trajectory through the solar system, trying to model its origin. The orbit does not close. It never loops back. Instead, it slices through our planetary plane like a letter slipped under a cosmic door. Its speed defies capture, faster than any bound asteroid, too steady to be debris. These are the signatures of something born beyond the sun's reach. The narrator's voice, low and measured, explains how trajectories like this reveal motion relative to the galactic plane, how the angles tell us the visitor's home lies in another stellar neighborhood entirely. You can almost picture it, an ancient traveler carrying the chemistry of its birthplace. Frozen gases sealed within, ammonia, methane, perhaps traces of complex carbon molecules. As it nears the warmth of our star, thin jets of vapor peel away from cracks in its crust, whispering into space like soft exhalations. The solar wind bends these sighs into a veil of luminous haze, faint but steady, marking the traveler's brief moment of visibility. It does not blaze like the bright comets of childhood stories. It glimmers instead, quiet and reserved, as though unwilling to reveal all it knows. Under this calm narration, sinister no longer means threatening. It means unknowable, something vast, foreign, and dignified in its secrecy. We are not afraid of it so much as humbled by what it implies, that our solar system is not isolated, that fragments of other worlds can and do find us. In the gentle flow of explanation, the object becomes a messenger of deep time, a sample courier from the dark between stars. What it carries is not life or doom, but information, atoms arranged in patterns shaped by alien suns, cosmic rays, and magnetic storms we have never felt. To study it is to read an interstellar letter, though most of its words are blurred. Astronomers decode what they can through spectrographs, instruments that split starlight into colors. Each dip or rise in the spectrum marks a material signature, a whisper of what the surface contains. They see compounds unfamiliar in local asteroids, long carbon chains, silicate dust fused by radiation, traces of heavy metals formed only in ancient supernovae. Every photon reflected from its surface is a traveler too, crossing billions of miles to reach the mirrors of our telescopes. In that reflected light lies a chemistry lesson written in cosmic handwriting. But even science must pause for wonder. Between data points and plots, there's the simple image of a dark shard gliding silently through the cradle of our sun's light, its path neither random nor predictable, just steady, like thought itself moving through time. Some astronomers, in rare quiet moments, admit to feeling a kind of companionship with these visitors. They remind us that the universe is not static, it is always sending and receiving, trading fragments of itself in endless drift. In this tranquil understanding, we see how fragile boundaries are. The dust that forms your body and the stone in this interstellar traveler may have been neighbors once, born in the same long-vanished nebula before drifting apart. Across light years and epochs, you and it share a chemical ancestry. The narrator's tone softens. To know such things is to feel small, yes, but also connected. The void is not empty. It remembers. Now, as the object moves closer to the inner solar system, telescopes sharpen their focus. Its spectrum shifts subtly, volatile ices begin to sublimate, revealing fresh layers beneath the outer crust. With each observation, the traveler speaks a little louder, its composition hinting at worlds unseen and distances almost beyond imagination. Yet the more we learn, the more questions appear. Why is it darker than expected, heavier than it should be, quieter in its release of vapor? The mysteries seem infinite, as though the object guards its story out of respect for the silence it came from. And perhaps that's what makes it feel like a messenger, not because it brings warning or salvation, but because it carries the calm persistence of everything that endures. The object is a survivor of creation itself, older than most stars we see tonight. It reminds us that the cosmos is full of unsent messages, drifting until someone happens to look up and listen. As it continues its slow descent toward the sun, one can imagine the surface trembling with heat, releasing centuries of frozen air into radiant streams. Somewhere, on the other side of that light, we are watching, tiny observers trying to understand an untranslatable language written in dust and motion. And in the soft closing of the narrator's voice, the object glides on, silent and self-contained. It does not answer questions, only poses them through its presence. In the great stillness that follows, one truth settles like a sigh. Not all messengers arrive with meaning clear. Some come simply to remind us that we are part of the same drifting silence, our destinies traced in the same thin light. The glow fades slowly, but in that fading lies a question that will not rest, a whisper of chemistry, a scarred surface waiting to be understood. The object glides through the black sea of space, a dim fragment swallowed by shadow. Its surface does not sparkle like ordinary comets. It absorbs light, drinks it in, and returns only a faint, uneven shimmer. Through the long eyes of telescopes, astronomers focus their instruments, spreading its reflected starlight into a quiet rainbow. A spectrograph becomes their prism of truth. Every wavelength whispers a secret, faint traces of carbon, threads of nickel and iron, a breath of frozen methane, and something stranger, complex organic molecules that look almost alive, yet formed in a place no life could ever touch. The narrator's voice stays calm, like wind through an empty observatory. You can almost hear the hum of the cooling systems, the soft tick of data streams coming in from deep space. Each line of color tells of journeys too long to measure. Carbon-rich dust from distant supernovae. Metallic scars from collisions in forgotten star nurseries. Ice older than our own solar system, sealed under a crust so dark it hides from sunlight itself. Most comets are pale wanderers, their icy faces glinting in the warmth of the sun. But this one, the dark wanderer, defies the pattern. Its albedo, the measure of reflectivity, is so low that it rivals coal. It does not gleam, it broods. The narrator explains softly how such a surface forms, how cosmic radiation and solar wind bake away brightness, leaving a hardened shell of carbon chains and ancient soot. Each atom tells of survival against light and time. Comparisons drift through the mind like clouds. The meteorites that fall on Earth, carbonaceous chondrites, carry similar materials: graphite, silicates, amino-like acids. They too are time capsules, evidence that chemistry writes the same story across the galaxy. Yet this traveler carries hints that don't fit the family tree. Ratios of hydrogen to deuterium, metallic isotopes from unfamiliar regions of stellar birth. Its spectral lines bend in ways that resist easy classification, like a note sung slightly off-key. The narrator's tone slows. You imagine the object spinning silently, rough and irregular, a floating sculpture of shadow and frost. Its surface might be fractured from millennia of collisions, cratered and creased like an old face weathered by eternity. Around it, the solar wind drifts like a pale fog, brushing against its surface, carrying ions and whispers of radiation. In the cradle of silence, it turns, slow, deliberate, unhurried by the gaze of our telescopes. A visualization appears in your thoughts, a beam of light touching the object's edge, scattering into muted reds and browns, swallowed before it can bloom. This isn't the shimmer of ice, it's the echo of distance. A material so ancient that time itself seems embedded in it. The spectrograph records every flicker, and somewhere a scientist exhales, aware they're seeing the chemical handwriting of another world. Through the soft rhythm of the narration, the idea emerges. This chemistry isn't random. It's a memory. Each molecule, each carbon chain, each mineral inclusion is a clue to the journey this traveler has taken through nebulae, dust lanes, and the empty corridors between stars. Maybe it formed near a dying sun, thrown outward by a supernova's breath. Maybe it wandered for millions of years through the darkness, slowly coated in cosmic soot until it forgot its glow. And yet, even darkness can reflect. The object's weak shimmer, faint as candlelight in fog, carries proof that it endures. It tells us how matter can survive destruction, how cold can preserve what heat destroys. There is beauty in its resistance, a silent defiance that speaks of time before Earth, before the sun, before memory. The narrator pauses, letting the silence widen. You imagine being alone in a dark observatory, surrounded by hums and gentle static, watching numbers scroll that no one but you understands. The data tells you what your eyes cannot see, that this traveler's chemistry was shaped by storms of cosmic weather, by collisions and fields of radiation that sculpted its every scar. Its orbit, too, must bear those wounds. Gravity's slow hand has tugged it for eons, bending its course again and again, reshaping its destiny one faint encounter at a time. The room feels still. Your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of that imagined spin, one full rotation every few hours, perhaps. Somewhere, sunlight glances off the object's side, and for a moment, a fragment of it glows, proof that even the darkest wanderer still answers the light. As the voice fades, a thought remains like the afterglow of a setting star. If chemistry can hold memory, then this silent traveler carries the story of creation itself, written in carbon and silence. The faint reflection across its battered surface is not light returning, but history remembering. And as that thought drifts to rest, one quiet question lingers in the dark. What has gravity carved into its path? What hidden arc awaits this wanderer, somewhere just beyond our reach, still turning softly beneath the endless night? It begins as a faint motion, an ancient traveler sliding through the black sea of space, the sun's gravity pulling gently, then firmly, like a hand guiding a falling leaf. Each day, its trajectory curves tighter, a sweeping arc toward the star's blazing heart. From the outer reaches, past the frozen quiet of Mars, the object descends into warmth and danger. The deeper it falls, the more the silence hums. Telescopes track it, their lenses shimmering with the ghostly light of an approaching mystery. Astronomers call this moment the dive toward perihelion, the passage of closest approach, where heat and gravity test what a body is truly made of. The narrator's voice is soft and deliberate, each word gliding like light across still water. Gravity, we are reminded, is not a force one feels directly. It's the bending of space itself, a cosmic current that turns straight lines into orbits, circles, and spirals. The object, caught in this invisible geometry, is now an unwilling dancer. Every second, it gains speed, kilometers per second folding into thousands, as it races toward the sun. The quiet becomes a low, endless hum, a whisper you can almost hear if you close your eyes. As it nears the inner system, it passes Mars' red orbit, rusted plains bathed in faint sunlight, silent witnesses to its flight. Then Earth's path lies ahead, a pale blue ring in the dark. For a brief interval, astronomers on the night side can glimpse a dim glow, a tiny, moving dot slipping between the constellations. Its brightness grows slightly, a shimmer like frost catching the edge of dawn. Yet even in its light, there's an unease. It is too dark for a comet, too fast for a typical asteroid. Its path is steep, its velocity strange. The sun begins to assert its power now. The traveler's surface heats, volatile ices start to vaporize, escaping in thin streams. Each jet, though small, acts like a thruster, shifting its orbit in ways no human can fully predict. These jets carve miniature tails that twist and dance like drifting shadows, tracing delicate spirals in the solar wind. The surrounding space glows faintly as particles scatter sunlight into a luminous haze. From a distance, it looks serene, a gentle shimmer, a brushstroke of silver mist. But up close, chaos reigns. Dust peeling away, microfractures racing through ancient rock, molecular bonds unraveling after millions of years of cold silence. In slow, poetic cadence, the narrator explains the peril of perihelion. Every comet, every fragment that falls too near the sun faces a trial by fire. Some endure, dark, heat-shocked survivors that curve outward again into the cold. Others, more fragile, simply disintegrate, becoming clouds of dust and vapor that fade into the solar wind. The sun both creates and destroys, and in this radiant violence lies beauty. The voice softens. Each time we watch one fall, we are reminded that even in destruction, the universe paints with light. Imagine now the traveler's descent, a fragment spinning through a golden furnace. Around it, magnetic fields twist the charged particles of the solar wind into invisible ribbons. The object's surface glows faintly red, then orange, as it sheds its outer layers like memories lost to time. It is older than Earth, older than our sun, born in a nebula whose starlight has long since faded. And yet, here it is, racing toward a new dawn, its fate undecided. Will it survive the fire, or crumble into silence? Ground-based telescopes lose sight of it now. The sun's glare swallows everything. Space observatories, shielded and patient, continue to watch. Data streams back, fluctuations in brightness, irregular flickers that might mean outgassing, or rotation, or fragmentation. The voice of the narrator becomes softer, as though you are drifting beside it. Out here, no sound can travel. No signal cries out. Only light tells the story, flickering across the void like a heartbeat. In this calm, dreamlike tone, the lesson of gravity deepens. It is not just a pull, it is a conversation between mass and space, between star and wanderer. The sun does not chase, it simply waits, its field curving gently outward like an embrace. The traveler, long indifferent, cannot resist. It plunges through this cosmic fabric, and in doing so, reveals its own nature. What burns away was never meant to last. What remains might endure for ages. Astronomers compare it to older sungrazers, the Great Comet of 1882, Ikiyaseki in 1965, Lovejoy in 2011, all objects that dared the sun's heat and were transformed. Some split apart, some survived as glowing fragments, some vanished completely, their dust forming halos that wrapped around the solar corona like faint whispers of their passing. The narrator draws a parallel. They were not destroyed, they were unmade into light. As you listen, you can almost picture the scene. The sun's corona shimmering in waves of white fire, the object's tail stretching out in a thin, ghostly arc. Its brightness peaks for a moment, a flicker against the storm of photons, and then, perhaps, it fractures. Perhaps it survives. The truth remains hidden for now. The instruments continue to record, but the story pauses in the blinding brilliance near the sun. And in that pause lies the essence of the word, sinister. Not evil, but unpredictable. Not a threat, but a question, an unanswered whisper written across the light. The traveler's destiny is suspended in that silence, a coin flipped into the void, spinning endlessly until gravity decides. As the chapter drifts toward its close, the soundscape softens. Faint solar wind, a hum like breathing, the imagined echo of dust turning to vapor. Somewhere far away, a telescope's shutter closes for the night. The data will be studied later. For now, the object has vanished into radiance, a secret held by the sun itself. And in the fading glow of that imagined vision, one thought lingers like a pulse beneath the calm. Every falling body teaches us something, not just about matter, but about surrender. In light, in motion, in silence, there is meaning. The universe speaks quietly, and the wise simply listen. Under the dim veil of starlight, before telescopes and equations, there was only the naked sky. Ancient people stood beneath it, their torches flickering, eyes wide with wonder and fear. In that era, a comet was not a scientific visitor, it was a messenger. A streak of fire across the heavens was a divine whisper, a warning that something powerful, unseen, was stirring beyond the clouds. In Mesopotamia, scribes carved symbols into clay tablets describing stars with tails like serpents. In China, court astronomers recorded guest stars and halos of light, connecting their appearance to the fate of emperors. Across oceans and centuries, in Greece and Mesoamerica, every civilization learned to read the sky as if it were a sacred book. Imagine standing in an open field thousands of years ago. The air cools around you, the only sounds are crickets and the crackle of fire. Then, from the horizon, a glowing thread begins to stretch across the heavens, a comet, brighter than any star. No one knows where it came from. No one knows when it will fade. To them, it is alive, a celestial creature tracing the will of the gods. Priests and poets alike would fall silent, watching as it drew symbols no hand could erase. Kings would consult oracles. Armies would hesitate to march. Farmers might refuse to plant, fearing the sky's warning. Each civilization gave these wanderers names filled with meaning: the Star of the East, the Torch of Heaven, the Spear of Flame. To the Babylonians, such signs could foretell floods or famine. To the Romans, they marked the death of leaders. Julius Caesar's funeral coincided with a comet so bright it was visible by day, and the people believed it was his soul ascending. Even centuries later, Halley's Comet would reappear in medieval skies, its brilliant arc painted into tapestries and illuminated manuscripts, a bright scar of destiny stitched into the fabric of belief. The narrator's voice softens, drawing a line from their awe to ours. What you see now through a telescope, they once saw with prayer. The words flow like a calm tide, reminding us that fear, long ago, was not superstition alone but an attempt to understand patterns beyond human reach. In the absence of equations, myths filled the void. They were not wrong to see meaning, they were building the first bridges of interpretation between earth and the heavens. The soft drumbeat of history continues. You can almost hear it, the rhythm of cultures watching the sky together. The Maya carved stone calendars that predicted eclipses and the return of Venus, treating celestial timing as proof of divine order. The Egyptians built temples aligned so precisely with solstices that sunlight pierced inner chambers only twice a year. Their architecture whispered, "We are watching." Even in the quiet villages of northern Europe, people traced the lights of the aurora and saw ghostly armies, celestial processions moving across the cold night. And yet, in every one of these stories, the emotion is the same, all mixed with unease. When something new appeared in the sky, it broke the illusion of stability. It meant the heavens were not fixed, that the world could change without warning. The comet's glowing tail became a mirror for our deepest fears, that we are small, temporary, and subject to the will of forces we cannot see. But as centuries passed, that fear transformed into curiosity. The invention of telescopes peeled back the sky's mystery, turning omens into orbits. What had once been a divine messenger became a predictable traveler following a gravitational path. Astronomers mapped the heavens with careful hands and steady hearts. They replaced myth with mathematics, but not entirely. Even today, headlines call new discoveries mystery objects, dark visitors, or cosmic threats. The language of fear lingers, like dust from ancient fires. The narrator pauses, letting that thought settle. The soundscape fades into silence, a cradle of quiet between then and now. Somewhere, a faint hum of modern instruments replaces the beating of ancient drums. Telescopes rise where temples once stood. Screens glow in place of torches. Yet the posture is the same, heads tilted upward, hearts caught between wonder and worry. Science has given us calmer eyes, the narrator says softly, but not necessarily calmer minds. We now understand trajectories, perihelions, and solar winds, yet every time a dark, fast-moving object cuts across the stars, something ancient stirs in us. We imagine omens again, though dressed in modern language. A potential hazard asteroid is the same as a warning star once was. Numbers now describe what stories once embodied. The pattern repeats. You picture the night sky as a living tapestry of memory, each comet a returning echo of the first one seen by ancient eyes. They feared gods. We fear data gaps. They wondered what angered the heavens. We wonder what our instruments missed. Both fears come from the same fragile truth. We are still learning what kind of conversation the universe is trying to have with us. As the music fades to near silence, the narration softens further. Perhaps fear was never the enemy. Perhaps it was the first form of curiosity. The torches of the past have become telescopes, but the light they cast serves the same purpose, to push back the unknown, if only a little. The last image lingers, a priest watching a comet reflected in still water, and an astronomer centuries later, watching the same reflection through a glass lens. Two watchers, one question: what message hides in the motion of the sky? The silence deepens, yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. It begins in near silence, a hum, a pulse, the faint vibration of machines breathing through the night. In control rooms scattered across the planet, screens glow like tiny suns in darkened spaces. Each pixel carries data: numbers, coordinates, brightness curves. Somewhere within that quiet ocean of figures drifts the signature of the traveler, a dark, sinuous object hurtling toward the sun. Around it, an invisible web of mathematics stretches, as astronomers trace its orbit and mark its minute shifts across the sky. The narrator's voice is low, almost like a lullaby. Every night, the sky sends billions of signals, photons arriving from stars, galaxies, meteors, and dust. Among them, one thread glimmers differently. The object's path, caught first as a brief flicker against background starlight, now sits embedded in networks of observatories. From Chile to Hawaii, from the Canary Islands to deep deserts, telescopes capture its faint reflection, feeding data to servers humming in steady rhythm. The scene unfolds with sensory stillness. Fluorescent monitors bathe rooms in cold light, air conditioning sighs softly over racks of processors, the clicking of mechanical mounts sounds like a slow heartbeat. Technicians whisper, their voices blending with the soft tick of tracking software adjusting for planetary motion. Each observatory adds another thin line to a growing web, a map of an orbit that should make sense, but doesn't. At first, the trajectory appears typical, an elongated ellipse, steep but predictable. Then subtle deviations emerge. The curve bends more sharply than expected. A handful of readings show minor accelerations that no model can fully explain. Computers flag them as outliers, but the humans watching hesitate. Outliers can be mistakes, or they can be the start of discovery. The narrator explains gently how astronomers analyze these patterns, comparing brightness across time, checking for outgassing that might act as tiny thrusters, recalculating orbital elements again and again. Sometimes, the voice murmurs, it's not what you see that matters, it's what refuses to fit. The object's movement defies the simplest gravitational models by margins so small they could be noise, or the whisper of an unseen force. The story lingers in the mechanical calm. You can almost hear the whir of cooling fans, the steady scroll of code, the quiet clatter of keys as scientists adjust equations. The chapter paints them not as heroes, but as dreamers suspended between certainty and wonder, guardians of precision in a world that never stops shifting. Each pixel of starlight becomes a clue, every anomaly a soft question mark floating above the Earth. Then, a new dataset arrives, slightly later than predicted. The object appears displaced, its angle changed by a fraction of a degree. One researcher leans closer, narrowing her eyes, the blue glow reflecting in her pupils. "That's odd," she whispers. "The deviation is too consistent to dismiss. Too deliberate in its rhythm. Could solar radiation pressure alone explain it? Possibly. But the pattern feels steady, pulsing, almost rhythmic, as if something inside the object were breathing." The narrator's tone remains serene, never alarmed. When science meets mystery, the first step is not fear, it's patience. Models are refined. Supercomputers simulate 1,000 potential causes. Uneven jets of sublimating ice, buried metallic inclusions, the faint tug of unseen fragments nearby. Yet, none align perfectly. The traveler keeps sliding slightly off expectation, like a dancer moving to a tempo no one else can hear. Outside, the night remains vast and indifferent. Clouds drift across mountaintop observatories, muffling the starlight. Inside, the servers continue their gentle lullaby, a constant hum that sounds almost like the wind moving through hollow metal. The data keeps arriving, line after line, endless as the sea. In this calm persistence lies the beauty of science-for-sleep storytelling. The object, so distant and small, mirrors the fragile pulse of human curiosity. We keep watching because we can't help but wonder. Somewhere inside that faint irregular motion might lie a clue to its true nature, an echo from collisions billions of years old, or perhaps a trace of something yet unnamed. The narrator slows the rhythm further, voice dipping to a whisper. What if this push isn't random? What if, in the silence between the numbers, something else is moving with purpose? The idea lingers, not shouted, not dramatized, just suspended in air like a breath before dreaming. Astronomers continue to compare data across continents, syncing observatories with atomic clocks. They check calibration stars, confirm atmospheric distortion, and remove every known interference. Still, the residual drift remains. It's faint, barely measurable, but persistent. Like a small hand pressing gently from somewhere unseen. The camera in your mind drifts away from the labs and into the black expanse above Earth. There, amid stars and frozen dust, the traveler glides in its silent orbit. Its surface absorbs sunlight and gives back only a dim shimmer, like a coal faintly breathing in the dark. It doesn't speak, doesn't flare, doesn't tumble wildly. Yet its motion carries a whisper of intention. Back on Earth, screens continue to glow through the night. One researcher leans back in her chair, closing her eyes as data scrolls endlessly before her. The hum of servers becomes a kind of music, steady, hypnotic. Outside the window, dawn begins to pale the horizon, washing the stars from view. The narrator concludes softly, "Between the signals and the silence lies everything we still don't understand." Perhaps the universe never meant to hide its secrets, it only asks that we listen long enough to notice them. The object's unexplained drift remains unsolved, its story still unfolding somewhere beyond the reach of certainty. And in that lingering hum, the quiet breath of machines and the endless rhythm of the cosmos, the question floats unspoken: if something unseen is guiding this traveler, is it merely the hand of physics, or something the equations have yet to name? Under a blanket of silent stars, gravity moves like an unseen composer, steady, patient, eternal. Every planet, asteroid, and drifting particle hums to its rhythm. Around the sun, a quiet choreography unfolds. Massive bodies pulling on the small tugging back, each motion changing the next in an endless ripple of influence. Our dark traveler, silent, cold, and persistent, enters this grand dance, tracing an orbit bent by invisible threads. The sun's curvature of space draws it inward, while Jupiter, the giant guardian, exerts a deep gravitational undertow, trying to slow or redirect it. These forces, ancient and absolute, shape the object's fate with hands we cannot see. Imagine the solar system not as emptiness, but as a great sea of moving tides. Each planet is a heavy current, each comet a drifting leaf. The narrator's tone softens as you picture these streams weaving through one another, forming eddies, resonances, and corridors. Jupiter's immense pull creates safe havens where asteroids linger for millennia, trapped in slow orbits known as Trojan swarms. Saturn adds subtle harmonics to this cosmic symphony, while Neptune's distant tug adjusts the rhythm at the solar system's edge. Even Earth, small and fragile, plays its part, influencing passing meteors just enough to alter their trajectories forever. Gravity is patient. It does not rush. A comet crossing near Jupiter may slingshot outward, gaining speed in a gravitational assist, a cosmic gift of momentum. Others spiral inward, drawn too close, their paths curved until they burn away in the sun's halo. This balance of creation and destruction is delicate, precise, and utterly silent. The dark traveler follows its path through this invisible field, every motion shaped by unseen threads stretching across billions of miles. Its orbit is no rebellion. It is an act of submission to forces as old as light itself. Yet, within this order, there are mysteries. The object's movement carries slight deviations, minute wobbles that data analysts trace but cannot fully explain. In the soft hum of observatories, computers plot its path again and again, adjusting parameters, refining models. Jupiter's pull explains some of the motion. Solar radiation pressure accounts for a bit more. But there remains a residual drift, a whisper of difference, too small for panic, too large to ignore. It is as though something gentle yet persistent nudges the traveler in ways gravity alone cannot justify. Some astronomers suggest uneven outgassing, jets of vapor escaping from beneath its crust, pushing it slightly like a slow breath in the dark. Others propose internal fractures, cracks forming deep within from tidal stress, causing it to vent invisible streams of dust and gas. These possibilities make sense, logical and grounded. But there are also those who look at the data and wonder if something more exotic lies beneath the pattern. Perhaps the object's density is not uniform. Perhaps its surface hides materials that react differently to sunlight. Or, as some whisper in late-night observatories, perhaps it carries an electric charge interacting faintly with the solar wind, gravity's quiet companion. The narrator pauses, letting the mind drift across this sea of invisible hands. Gravity is not just a pull, it is a conversation among stars, a slow exchange of influence. Every orbit, every tilt, every resonance tells a story of attraction and surrender. Across the universe, exoplanets circle alien suns under the same unseen rules. Some lock into perfect resonance, 3 or 4 worlds moving in synchronized grace, each tugging the other into rhythm. Others fall into chaos, flung away by the very forces that once held them. Even here, our solar system hums with these subtle beats. Jupiter keeping time, Earth following in step, the dark traveler moving like a note that doesn't quite belong to the song. As you listen, imagine space as a vast pool of curved light. The sun bends this light, and with it, space itself. What we call gravity is simply the shape of that bend, a cosmic slope down which every mass must slide. The traveler does not choose its path any more than a leaf chooses the wind that carries it. Yet, within this inevitability lies something strangely human, the search to understand, to map the invisible, to listen for whispers in the noise. For centuries, gravity has been our most loyal mystery. From Newton's falling apple to Einstein's warping of spacetime, each discovery peeled back another layer of its hidden nature. But still, the core remains untouchable, a force we feel but cannot see, shaping both galaxies and grains of dust. The traveler, spiraling through this invisible web, becomes a living demonstration of that mystery. It moves not with malice or intention, but as a fragment obeying ancient law. The only question is whether those laws alone can account for all that we see. Telescopes track its position with clinical precision, yet every frame captured adds a quiet poetry. A dot, slightly displaced. A line, curved just so. A pattern repeating but not perfectly. These deviations might be nothing more than thermal release or subtle miscalculations, or they might hint at something hidden within its mass, an uncharted property of matter itself. In the cradle of silence, the universe rarely offers answers outright, it only deepens the wonder. As the dark traveler moves farther inward, gravity's hands continue their slow persuasion. Jupiter will pull. The sun will bend. Earth will watch from afar, safe but curious. And still, those tiny shifts in motion will whisper questions into the data streams. If gravity alone cannot explain every curve and drift, what else shapes the traveler's fate? Perhaps a secret beneath its crust. Perhaps a force we have yet to name. Or perhaps, as always, the universe reminding us that even its most predictable laws carry within them the beauty of the unknown. And in the drifting quiet that follows, one could almost sense that another secret was waiting, hidden just beyond the reach of gravity's invisible hands. It begins with warmth, soft at first, then growing until even the coldest stone remembers motion. The object, once frozen for eons in the dark, now turns beneath the steady rise of solar heat. The sun's light strikes its scarred surface, and something subtle begins to happen. Beneath its crust, ancient ices expand, pressurizing pockets of vapor. The silence that carried this traveler for millions of years becomes fragile, as invisible forces build within. There is no sound in space, only the imagined hush of tension rising inside a brittle heart. Comets are not solid like planets. They are mosaics, ice, dust, and rock stitched together by time. When sunlight reaches them, they change. They breathe. Gas escapes through fissures, trailing out into vacuum like ghostly veils. Astronomers call it sublimation, but to the ear of a listener drifting toward sleep, it feels like the object exhaling after an endless, frozen dream. That exhale forms the luminous tail we see from Earth, a long whisper of vapor stretching through the void. As it nears the sun, the pressure inside deepens. Cracks form, delicate at first, then branching across the surface like lightning trapped in stone. Some close again, sealed by refrozen vapor. Others split wider, exposing new material to the relentless light. The dark wanderer begins to change shape. Its rotation wobbles, shifting its balance as sunlight pushes unevenly against its form. In high-speed photographs, the shift looks peaceful, a drifting shadow against the glare, but each moment carries the potential for a quiet fracture that will never mend. Scientists know this process well. They have watched comets like 73P/Schwarzmann-Watchman and Isen crumble before perihelion. What begins as a single nucleus becomes a family of fragments, each shard following its own slightly altered orbit, spreading like beads from a broken string. Some fade into dust clouds. Others survive for years, orbiting in synchronized swarms. What we call meteor showers on Earth, those glittering streaks that slip silently through summer nights, are the afterlife of such breakups. Every shooting star is a reminder that something once fell apart far from home. Now, as this sinister traveler rushes inward, astronomers wonder if they are witnessing the same fate unfold again. Spectrographs detect faint irregularities in its brightness, tiny pulses of reflection suggesting surface movement. The object could be venting, shedding particles too fine for telescopes to resolve. Around it, a dim haze begins to form, dust suspended in sunlight, glimmering faintly like snow in a beam of gold. You can almost imagine standing there, watching it fall apart in slow motion, though no eye could ever stand so close. If it fractures, the event will be silent. No explosion, no shockwave, just a silent expansion, fragments drifting apart like feathers released into water. The largest pieces will continue roughly along the parent's orbit. The smallest will scatter into new trajectories, guided by radiation pressure, gravity, and the solar wind's invisible hand. Some may fall inward, some may spiral outward, some may, one day, brush the orbit of our planet, unnoticed until they turn into harmless fire across the upper atmosphere. To astronomers, such shattering is both a loss and a gift. The original body is gone, but in its fragments lies new information, fresh material exposed from deep within. Spectra can reveal what worlds existed before ours, what ancient chemistry drifted between the stars. Each particle carries a memory of its birthplace, a chemical story written in atoms of carbon, iron, and frozen water. In that sense, when a comet breaks apart, it is not dying. It is revealing its heart. Still, there's something quietly unsettling about the idea. A single traveler, torn apart by the same light that gives life to worlds. The sun, brilliant and nurturing, also unravels what comes too close. In that contradiction lies the sinister beauty of the cosmos. Creation and destruction bound together, inseparable, as natural as dawn following night. Picture it now, drifting through a snowstorm of its own making. Each flake of dust spins weightless, each grain reflecting sunlight like a distant lantern. The faint hiss of vapor would be inaudible, but your mind supplies the sound anyway, a soft sigh, as though the universe itself were breathing. The fragments move outward in slow spirals, their paths diverging just enough to create uncertainty. Somewhere within those spirals could lie the faint possibility of intersection, the line between beauty and risk. On Earth, telescopes track the fading light curve. Observers whisper updates across continents, their instruments humming in the night. Magnitude dropping, one notes. Tail widening, says another. A few see something else, flashes of brightness where none should be. Perhaps reflection from spinning shards. Perhaps sunlight refracting through clouds of ice. Or perhaps, as one astronomer muses aloud, we're watching it multiply. The transformation continues unseen. Where there was one, there are now many. Small, silent travelers carrying pieces of an ancient story, fanning out through the inner solar system like seeds in a wind. Their orbits will stretch and warp under the pull of planets, weaving delicate threads through space. Centuries from now, those threads may sweep across our sky as meteors, harmless, transient reminders of this moment. You imagine lying beneath such a shower, decades from now, watching bright lines cross the darkness, unaware that they were once part of a single dark wanderer that cracked under a sun it could not endure. The thought is humbling, how even destruction can become beauty when time softens its edges. The object's fate is sealed, but its legacy has just begun. Each fragment reflects light a little differently, each path curves through the void on its own rhythm. Some will fade into nothing. Some will return, faint ghosts passing the sun again after long centuries. And a few may leave invisible traces, streams of dust intersecting Earth's orbit, waiting patiently for the planet to drift through. In the cradle of silence, you feel the enormity of it, the endless cycle of breaking and becoming, of light revealing and erasing in equal measure. The dark wanderer may be fragile, but its story will continue to fall around us as streaks of light, brief, brilliant, and gone. The cosmic snowstorm drifts onward, and somewhere in that gentle shimmer, the object keeps turning, its fractured body scattering starlight like memory itself. The silence deepens, yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. Beneath the quiet dome of night, Earth spins through a stream of invisible travelers. Some glide by unseen, fragments of a once larger body that fractured near the sun. The sky above looks calm, but astronomers know that space is never still. Every second, thousands of small objects, dust, ice, stone, cross our planet's path like faint whispers in the dark. They orbit, collide, scatter, and vanish, leaving only traces of light for those patient enough to look. High in desert observatories, telescopes tilt toward these moving points. Computers hum, tracing arcs through digital skies. The narrator's tone is soft, unhurried, explaining how scientists map trajectories, projecting years into the future. Each fragment's orbit is fed into simulations, equations that turn gravity into gentle curves of light on a screen. You can almost hear the quiet clicks of data being gathered, like raindrops on glass. Most paths, they find, will miss us by wide margins. They are travelers merely passing through, their silence a kind of reassurance. Yet within the calm, there are always close brushes. Astronomers call them near-Earth approaches, though a near often means millions of miles away. Still, the numbers hold power. The smallest deviations, a fraction of a degree, could shift a harmless orbit into one that brushes closer. The chapter lingers on this balance. How gravity shapes destiny, how even a pebble in space follows the same laws that move entire planets. Under the narrator's steady voice, danger feels distant, abstract, softened by scale. Imagine lying beneath an autumn sky, watching a meteor shower. The narrator describes the soft streaks, tiny fragments burning harmlessly high above forests and fields. Each flash is a memory of collision, an echo of ancient debris brushing the atmosphere. Cities sleep below, unaware that their night is stitched with cosmic threads. The soundscape fades to a quiet hum, the gentle hiss of solar wind turned into a lullaby. As the story deepens, the view shifts to the systems that protect us. Tracking networks, space agencies, small observatories run by volunteers who scan each frame of the heavens. Their vigilance feels fragile yet comforting. They label, classify, and update charts of potential impactors, most to be forgotten after a few orbits. Still, there's humility in the act, a recognition that we are tiny custodians of a vast and unpredictable sky. The narrator describes one simulation, perhaps more art than warning. A faint line curves past Earth, looping into a slow, elegant arc around the sun before vanishing into the deep. The model glows softly, showing how time itself can be mapped, how fate can be traced in lines of light. Then another model appears, one where a fragment brushes closer, its path intersecting with Earth's shadow. No impact, just a near miss. The difference between disaster and spectacle is often measured in minutes and miles. The tone remains gentle, never alarmed. The idea of risk is framed as part of our cosmic environment, something to understand, not to fear. We live inside a moving map, the narrator says quietly. Every night, invisible routes cross the space we occupy, and still we dream beneath them. The music drifts like slow tides, full of warmth. From here, the focus softens further into reflection. We are reminded that the Earth itself was shaped by collisions long before life began. Oceans formed from impacts, atmospheres thickened by dust. The same events that once destroyed also built the world we inhabit. Under that awareness, the line between danger and creation blurs. Every meteor that burns above us is a spark from that shared history, a gentle reminder of both fragility and endurance. The chapter lingers on the sensory, the soft rustle of trees under a meteor shower, the faint smell of rain on soil, the feeling of stillness after the last streak fades. You imagine the planet moving silently through space, wrapped in a thin atmosphere, while unseen travelers pass just beyond reach. The calm voice assures you that the odds remain kind, the distances immense, the watchfulness constant. But then, as the sound narrows to almost nothing, one thought remains. If we can trace the paths we see, what about those we cannot? The unseen fragments hidden in solar glare, the dark objects without reflective ice or tails, the quiet bodies that cross between our measurements, what stories move with them? The narrator lets the question drift without answer, leaving only the soft image of Earth spinning beneath its invisible visitors. In the end, the tone settles into peace. The risk fades into perspective, wonder replaces worry. The sky above is vast but knowable, dangerous yet familiar. A soft glow hangs on the horizon as if dawn might soon arrive. And in that final moment between awareness and rest, the listener feels both protected and small, cradled inside a web of drifting shadows, where every harmless streak across the night reminds us that the universe is watching, and that somewhere in the darkness, something still waits to be found. It begins quietly, like a breath between heartbeats. The object racing toward the sun is bright in the public eye, a single headline that captures our collective curiosity. Yet behind that one wandering traveler lies a greater, quieter threat, the unseen multitude. Space between planets is not empty, it is filled with fragments, asteroids smaller than city blocks, comets cloaked in darkness, pieces of ancient worlds drifting unnoticed through the glare. While telescopes track the famous few, countless others slip invisibly through the same sky we call familiar. In observatories scattered across mountaintops and deserts, faint hums of cooling fans fill the night. Astronomers stare at screens washed in blue light, watching for tiny motions that betray movement. Each dot on their map is a whisper of rock or ice, and each whisper could, one day, become a roar. Yet our view of the heavens is far from complete. When the sun rises, the instruments blink and go blind. The brightness of day forms a wall of light through which almost nothing can be seen. Even with the most advanced survey systems, there are patches of the sky we have never fully explored, regions lost to the dazzle of sunlight, where dark travelers can hide until it's too late. The narrator's voice slows, painting the scene with gentle motion. The earth turning, the sun climbing, the endless veil of blue that hides the cosmos from sight. Hidden there are comets that skim close to the solar furnace, breaking into vapor and dust, and asteroids that cross Earth's orbit silently. They are ghosts in daylight, too faint to catch, too quick to measure. The object we watch so closely is a messenger, reminding us how little we still see. Astronomers have a name for these lost wanderers, sungrazers and sunward objects. Their paths cut dangerously close to the sun, inside the bright halo that blinds most telescopes. Instruments like SOHO and Stereo, orbiting far beyond Earth's atmosphere, have caught brief glimpses of them, tiny streaks dissolving into vapor before they ever swing outward again. But those spacecraft see only fragments of a grander pattern, like looking through keyholes into an infinite room. Below, on Earth, powerful observatories work through the night. Pan-STARRS in Hawaii, Catalina in Arizona, and the Vera Rubin Observatory soon to come. Their digital eyes sweep across millions of stars, comparing images pixel by pixel, hunting for motion. Yet for all their brilliance, these telescopes face one unavoidable limitation. Their watch ends at dawn. The sun's radiance erases their reach. It is within that blazing frontier, between sight and blindness, that danger can hide most easily. The story slows into a softer rhythm, inviting stillness. Imagine standing beneath a clear morning sky, unaware that beyond the brightness, unseen shapes drift, some no larger than a house, some the size of mountains. They leave no trails, no warnings, only the silent potential of collision. The narrator speaks of the Earth's fragile resilience, a small planet protected by layers of atmosphere, magnetic field, and chance. For billions of years, we have survived strikes, storms, and waves of cosmic dust. Yet our protection depends on vigilance, and vigilance depends on sight. In this gentle reflection, the word sinister takes on new meaning. It is not the universe that bears malice, but the emptiness in our understanding, the corners left unlit. Our fear, when we face these celestial mysteries, is not of destruction itself but of unawareness. The dark is not the enemy, it is simply the unknown. Each discovery, each orbit plotted, each faint object catalogued, is a step toward turning that unknown into understanding. The narration deepens, mixing the language of science with the tone of a lullaby. You hear how detection surveys rely on reflected sunlight, how albedo determines visibility, how darker surfaces escape detection entirely. Some asteroids are coated in carbon so black they reflect less light than coal, making them nearly invisible even when near. The smallest among them, mere tens of meters wide, can slip past unnoticed, their trajectories only discovered after they've passed close, sometimes between Earth and the Moon. Each discovery comes with a chill of realization. If this one was found by accident, how many have gone unseen? And yet, there is resilience too. Humanity's curiosity is its own kind of shield. Each year brings new missions designed to close those blind spots. Infrared space telescopes like NEOWISE that can detect warm objects hidden from optical surveys. Proposed observatories such as NEO Surveyor that will orbit beyond Earth, peering sunward into the forbidden zone. The narrator's tone warms, hopeful now, a quiet confidence building beneath the calm. Step by step, the fortress grows, not of walls but of awareness. Still, the question lingers. How much sky can we truly see? Even our best instruments look outward from a single small planet, surrounded by glare, shadow, and gravity's distortions. The universe humbles us with its scale, reminding us that knowledge is always partial, and that perfection in watchfulness may forever remain a dream. But perhaps that dream itself is the point, the steady pursuit, the refusal to let mystery slip quietly into darkness. As the chapter drifts toward its close, the soundscape fades to silence. The whisper of solar wind, the soft pulse of distant telemetry, the slow heartbeat of Earth beneath the stars. You feel both exposed and protected, aware of how fragile we are, yet comforted by the quiet army of watchers who never stop looking up. The narrator's final words linger like an exhale. The bigger problem was never the single object hurtling toward the sun. It is the countless unseen travelers that fill the gaps between our moments of discovery, the ones that remind us how much still hides in plain sight. The glow dims, the instruments fall silent, and in the cradle of night, one truth settles gently into the mind. The unknown is vast, but so is our capacity to seek it. And in that quiet seeking, under the soft watch of distant stars, the silence deepens. Yet hidden in that silence is something waiting to be understood. The story opens beneath a calm sky, where stars hang like slow pulses of memory. The narrator's voice drifts softly. Every night, as telescopes turn toward the heavens, they are not searching for danger. They are building a quiet fortress. You imagine rows of silent observatories, domes opening with gentle whirs, lenses gleaming under a pale glow. Inside, scientists move carefully, eyes tired but steady, tracking faint points of light that cross the darkness. These are not soldiers on alert. They are listeners, building awareness, not walls. Planetary defense begins not with alarms but with patient observation. Across deserts, mountaintops, and frozen plains, new telescopes scan the sky for objects that drift too close. In Chile's Atacama, mirrors sweep across constellations so dry and clear that even the faintest asteroid glimmer becomes a message. In Hawaii, a dome-shaped observatory catches streaks of light moving against the stars, feeding them into networks that quietly calculate orbits. Each scan, each pixel, strengthens an invisible barrier, a shield made of knowledge rather than metal. The narrator explains gently how these watchtowers see. They search for near-Earth objects, asteroids, comets, silent travelers that share our path around the sun. Every one is plotted, given a name, a trajectory, a prediction of where and when it will cross. It's a calm rhythm: observe, measure, confirm. Yet between those quiet cycles lies purpose. Humanity, fragile under its blue veil of atmosphere, is learning to look ahead, not to fear the unknown, but to understand it before it arrives. We drift through space now, following a robotic sentinel named Neowise as it circles the Earth, its infrared eyes sensing heat signatures invisible to ordinary telescopes. The voice is slow, almost like a lullaby. Even in darkness, it can see what sunlight hides. The spacecraft moves through the cradle of silence, mapping orbits that pass near our planet, finding the faint warmth of rocks that reflect almost no light. Somewhere within that pattern lies peace of mind, the comfort of knowing that what once surprised us may soon be anticipated. In another orbit, the narrator brings us to DART, NASA's planetary defense test. The images are described gently, like a dream, a small craft the size of a vending machine gliding silently through the void, targeting a dim pair of asteroids named Didymos and Dimorphos. No countdowns, no roaring engines, just one deliberate motion through space. Then, impact. A flicker of dust, a slow ripple of motion. The narrator's tone remains calm. For the first time, humanity touched an asteroid not to study it, but to change its course. The meaning is profound but quiet, proof that awareness can lead to action, and that even a fragile species can learn to guide what once seemed unchangeable. The camera of the mind pans outward again. We float above Earth's thin blue line, watching other missions prepare. The Vera Rubin Observatory soon to scan the sky every few nights. The NEO Surveyor spacecraft, designed to peer near the sun where our vision fails. Each of these efforts feels less like a defense and more like mindfulness, a meditation on existence. Instead of panic, there is preparation. Instead of walls, there is wisdom. You can almost hear it, the narrator whispers, the quiet hum of our growing awareness. In control rooms across continents, small green lights blink on screens. In those lights is the faint echo of safety. There's no race against time, only the steady rhythm of data and patience. Every detection, every orbit calculated, is a note in a slow, reassuring symphony, a song of vigilance that never ends but never screams. You imagine yourself watching from a window at night, the thought of these silent watchers turning above you. Somewhere high in orbit, satellites scan, measure, and send streams of information back to Earth. Somewhere on a mountain, a scientist sips coffee while adjusting a telescope's alignment, their breath fogging against the cold dome air. The fortress they build has no gates or guns. Its strength lies in the calm persistence of observation. The narrator shifts tone slightly, speaking of balance. A fortress too rigid can crumble under its own fear. But a watchful mind stays flexible, patient, and curious. The goal of planetary defense is not to dominate the cosmos, it's to coexist with it. To watch, to learn, to adapt. We are part of the same dance, the same cosmic choreography that flings comets past Jupiter and dust storms across Mars. The realization brings peace, not fear. Soft imagery fills the closing minutes. Spacecraft gliding past dark rocks, their solar panels gleaming like wings, the sun casting long rays across craters, data streams moving through the silent ether of space. The quiet fortress stands not as an edifice but as awareness itself, shared between machines, scientists, and the listeners who now drift toward sleep. The voice lowers, nearly whispering, "The sky no longer feels like a threat when you know it is being watched. Every orbit mapped, every signal traced, every fragment understood is another layer of calm between us and chaos." The listener breathes slower, comforted by the idea of protection built from curiosity, not fear. Outside the window, clouds pass, stars blink faintly, and for a moment you feel the unity of watchers and watched, the fragile world and the infinite sky around it. The fortress holds, quiet and unseen, not against the universe, but within it. And in the fading glow of that thought, the silence deepens, not as emptiness, but as promise. A reminder that even as we sleep, there are eyes turned upward, keeping their gentle vigil. Hidden in that silence is something still waiting to be understood. The night has folded itself around the small house like a soft blanket. Outside, the world sleeps under a silver film of starlight. Inside, a single figure sits by the window, perhaps you, watching the quiet sky. Streetlights hum faintly in the distance, and the soft ticking of a clock becomes the rhythm of time itself. The window glass holds a dim reflection, a face half in shadow, half in starlight. Beyond it, the sky stretches endlessly, scattered with tiny embers of other suns. Somewhere among them moves the object that once seemed so sinister, a dark traveler racing toward the sun, now turning quietly back into the cold. The narrator's voice feels like a whisper in the dark, soft and measured. They remind us how it all began, with a single anomaly, a fragment of rock and ice that defied every prediction. It was never about fear, they say, it was about discovery. The unknown isn't cruel, it's simply waiting to be understood. As telescopes track the faint echo of its orbit, they reveal more than data. They reveal patience, persistence, and the small, bright courage of those who keep watching even when the night feels endless. The listener, still at the window, breathes slowly, tracing invisible lines between stars. Each one feels like a heartbeat frozen in space. The air is still, the kind that carries the faint scent of rain and cold earth. Somewhere, far above, solar wind drifts across the object's surface, scattering dust into pale ribbons. It's not visible from here, not even through the faint shimmer above the horizon. Yet knowing it's out there, the messenger, the traveler, feels strangely comforting. The voice continues, explaining softly that the object's story is part of a greater rhythm. Every comet, every asteroid, every unknown speck that crosses the night sky becomes part of a long conversation between the universe and the eyes that watch it. Scientists call it data. Dreamers call it wonder. Both are right. The light from those distant points carries not just science, but memory, the afterglow of things that once burned, collapsed, or were born anew in cosmic silence. A car passes far away. Its headlights brush against the wall, then fade, leaving the room in half-dark again. You lean closer to the glass. The stars seem to shimmer differently when you really look, like tiny words written in light, each one carrying an untold story. Somewhere, in a lab or observatory, someone else is awake, staring at another screen, tracing the same faint orbit that caught your curiosity weeks ago. You are both listening to the same silence, though separated by miles of air and thought. The narrator invites you to imagine the Earth itself as another listener, its oceans reflecting the same constellations that once guided sailors, its deserts glowing faintly under the moon. Every human who ever looked up, ancient or modern, has shared this same quiet question. What moves out there, and why does it move toward us? The answer, perhaps, is less about danger and more about reflection. These travelers mirror our own journey, fragile bodies moving through vast, uncharted dark. As your eyes adjust, faint clouds drift across the stars. They blur the edges of light, creating a soft halo that feels almost alive. The narrator's tone grows slower, wrapping scientific language in poetry. The object's trajectory, once steep and sharp, has softened after its encounter with the sun. It now glides outward again, carrying the fingerprints of our instruments, tiny spectral traces, our proof of having seen it. In time, it will fade beyond detection, joining the silent archive of cosmic wanderers that came before. You close your eyes for a moment, but the images linger. The faint hum of a telescope motor. The cold breath of dawn over an observatory dome. The soft clicking of data logs capturing the whisper of light that took years to arrive. Every detail feels far away yet close enough to touch. It's as if the act of watching has connected you to something far larger, a conversation across centuries of observers who never stopped looking up, even when the night gave no answers. The narrator's voice lowers almost to a murmur. In every unknown object, there is a kind of reflection, of us, of our curiosity, of the way we reach toward understanding even when we're afraid. Outside, a thin breeze moves the branches. The faint rustle sounds like the distant echo of solar wind brushing past the traveler's surface. There is no menace in it now, only rhythm, the steady, eternal motion of things that endure. The object that once felt sinister has become familiar, like an old thought returning in a dream. For a moment, the listener at the window feels something deep and wordless, a blend of loneliness and connection, like standing on the edge of an ocean at night. The universe, for all its cold distances, feels close enough to breathe in. Fear dissolves into awe. Curiosity becomes calm. And in that quiet space between heartbeats, one realization blooms, that perhaps every anomaly, every hidden traveler, is not a threat to our world but an invitation to look again, to listen more carefully, to stay curious even when answers slip beyond reach. The clock ticks softly. The stars remain. The traveler fades into the black beyond the heliosphere, still whispering its message through dust and distance. You lean back, eyelids heavy, feeling the weight of silence settle into peace. The narrator's final words arrive like a gentle breeze through an open window. The night is vast, and so are you. Somewhere out there, light still moves, carrying stories we have yet to learn. Sleep well beneath it. And as the world dims to quiet gray, the faintest thought drifts across your mind. Something unseen, waiting to be understood, still traveling through the dark. The story slows almost to stillness now. The object that once raced inward toward the burning heart of the solar system has turned, tracing a long arc back toward the dark. Its velocity softens, its glow fades. Around it, the planets move in their ancient rhythm, Mercury slipping close to the sun's glare, Venus shimmering beneath its thick clouds, Earth turning silently beneath thin blue air. The scene feels less like movement and more like breathing, slow, steady, eternal. What began as an anomaly has become a memory, a distant light fading into the deep. The narrator's voice lingers gently over the path we have traveled. From the first moment a faint dot appeared where none should be, through the long nights of observation, fear, and curiosity, to the final pass by the sun, every stage has carried both science and wonder in equal measure. Telescopes opened their glass eyes to the dark, catching the thin trace of a traveler that should not have been there. Data flowed through quiet labs, lines of orbit and temperature-filling screens like constellations of code. What we found was not an omen, but a mirror, reflecting our hunger to understand what moves in the spaces between stars. Now, as the object drifts outward, the sun reclaims its role as the silent conductor of this vast cosmic dance. Once, its glare blinded our instruments, hiding the traveler in a furnace of light. Now, in reflection, that same glare feels protective, like a curtain drawn across the stage after a performance ends. The sun glows not as a threat, but as a heart. It is the warm center around which our fragile world orbits, the steady pulse that gives life to everything we see. Imagine lying beneath that sun, somewhere on Earth, your room dim and cool while daylight drifts outside. You hear the faint hum of distant power lines, the murmur of traffic, the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. Above, invisible but constant, satellites trace their orbits, telescopes watch, sensors listen. Humanity, once blind to these spaces, now keeps quiet vigil. The sky no longer feels empty. It feels watched, not in fear, but in care. The narrator speaks softly of progress. New instruments coming online, spacecraft soon to map the inner solar system in detail, detectors able to see through the glare that once hid danger. Where there were blind spots, there will be eyes. Where there was silence, there will be understanding. The sinister presence once feared is now a teacher. It showed us what we could not see and reminded us why we must keep looking. Far beyond the orbit of Mars, our dark traveler cools again. Its surface, once scorched, grows quiet. Solar wind thins, radiation weakens, and tiny particles of dust gather on its hull like frost. It becomes what it was before, an ancient wanderer between stars, carrying stories no language has yet learned to tell. Maybe, millions of years from now, it will pass another world and awaken new eyes there, sparking the same wonder we felt. The cosmos repeats itself, not as a loop, but as an echo that never quite fades. Back on Earth, night deepens. The sun slips below the horizon, and a different kind of watching begins. Astronomers track faint signals from distant pulsars, radio antennas stretch like silver reeds toward the dark, and in every hemisphere, someone looks up. A child through a window. A scientist in a mountaintop dome. A listener drifting toward sleep with headphones on. The same quiet awe connects them all, the sense that we are small, but not alone, fragile yet persistent. The chapter's rhythm slows even further now, almost like a heartbeat fading under soft blankets of sound. The narrator's tone becomes intimate. You are part of this watching. Every person who wonders about the sky becomes a piece of the fortress that guards it. Every question, every moment of curiosity, adds light to the map of what we know. The sun above us burns, but so does understanding, a flame that does not destroy but reveals. Through calm pauses, we revisit fragments of memory. The first spark of detection, the speculation, the tension before perihelion, and the relief after survival. All of it settles like starlight on water, faint, scattered, but beautiful in its reflection. This is how science and wonder coexist, one seeking reason, the other finding meaning. And between them flows the human voice, steady and hopeful, whispering to the void. In this quiet, the scale of everything becomes clear. Galaxies spin beyond reach, black holes hum in low, inaudible tones, and yet our small world remains lit by a single star. The balance is delicate, but for now, it holds. We live under a watched sun, guarded by instruments, yes, but also by care, patience, and imagination. Every telescope, every curious mind, becomes part of a vast web of awareness that stretches across the dark. The music of the universe continues even when we sleep. Somewhere, the traveler continues its slow departure. Somewhere, a new anomaly forms, unseen, waiting to be found. The cradle of silence rocks on, eternal and unbroken. The night outside grows deep and blue, the stars faint behind thin clouds, the earth turning in its endless orbit. And as you breathe in and out, eyes heavy, thought softening, you realize, nothing has truly ended. The object, the sun, the watchers, the silence, they are all part of the same story, repeating in patterns too grand to finish. The mystery remains, gentle and infinite, whispering in the dark, reminding you that even as you drift into sleep, the sky above is still awake.